Good evening. Namaskar. Revenue Secretary Sanjay Malhotra ji, CBIC's Chairman of the Board Vivek Johri, Member Customs Mr. Talwar, my colleague who because of me had to come a bit later than my coming. Even I was a bit late because the discussion on the supplementary demand for grants is going on in the Parliament, and I'm grateful MOS waited to the last speaker and then joined us. Retired officers of customs, businesses who have come here, media, I'm indeed very happy to join you all here on marking the 60th anniversary of the Customs Act. 60 actually has very sacred connotations in India. Not so much 50, not so much 75. We do Sashti Purti, as they call it in South. 60 years completion is very, very sacred. It's marked with a lot of solemn ceremonies at home. A lot of attention is given, and also a lot of care is given about what's going to be the next 60 years like, and so on. So I think a similar exercise for Customs Act is started, and I'm glad to see members and the chairman of the CBIC going all around the country, meeting up with all of you all, and with great gusto celebrating the 60 years. You so deserve it, and I honestly appreciate the idea of wanting to be together and celebrate 60 years of having formed a great team, which actually I heard carefully member customs saying that the act has been very robust. It could meet challenges of changing times. A lot of newer things could be done, and because of that, people felt that we are moving ahead with times and so on. I agree with that. But I also want to say that in 60 years, no other service would have experienced such a pressure because of COVID, particularly in India. And if 57 odd years went away doing different things effectively, the test by fire happened during 2020. And it is at that time what Talwar actually said, that was put to the litmus test, saying, can the Customs Act and can those officers who serve under it really rise up to the needs of 2020 pandemic, the lockdown period, where nobody wanted to see another person or touch another person or receive anything from somebody else's hand. You didn't want to meet anybody. You wanted to be sure with your family, but you were meant to be at the border, at the customs station. Not one point anywhere in India received any complaint that people are not present, work is not happening, clearance is not happening. On the contrary, even as things were happening, there was voluntarily people were calling up to say things are moving fast, not just for those big companies which wanted their chips to come in time because their production will be halted, lockdown is affecting their production, or inventories which were stacking up, they weren't able to move out. Not just them. And not even big charitable institutions which were bringing all these PPE kits or oxygen, machines. But even individuals who were scared for their elderly parents who are here and who sent some small packet of medicines or anything that they thought at that time is the big thing to reach in time. So big or small, hospital or institutions or individuals, everyone was served and with that kind of extra speed which was required. Because normally, if as per the rules, you can take 12 or 10 hours. Here, no one had the patience to wait because it was a question of a life. And with immense commitment to your duty. It's time to remember that, because 60 years is happening today, but we're talking of 2 years ago, 57, 58 year. But I need to recall this because the robustness which Talwar referred to of the Customs Act is not because of what is written in the Act. It is because of how you people thought that Act be what it is. You didn't stick on to that 12 hours routine, saying, hey, I have to clear it 12 hours later, but now it's just 1 hour since it's come. No, you were just there doing it on your toes. So the robustness of the Act is more because of you and the way you took it on yourselves. Commendable. But that's a benchmark you've set for yourselves. You don't need to now wait for a pandemic, another pandemic. The world is resetting itself. The world now thinks that, things are moving rapidly, technology is coming. You brought in technology. But with or without technology, 56th year, 55th year, 54th year, 50th year, things didn't move this fast. You were the lubricants then, not technology. So I think you set yourself a very high benchmark, and which has been lauded. It's not as if nobody noticed it. It's not as if somebody said, oh, customs has always been like this and they continue to be like that. No, they actually came out at all levels and went up to the highest level to say, customs is just delivering, doing well. So that's the benchmark you set for yourselves. And therefore, if India's Amrit Kal is now the next 25 years, and I was even otherwise planning to ask you, how is this Customs Act, which has served us very well for 60 years, even during a pandemic that is, going to be future ready? Is there anything that all of you all are thinking about to make it just the thing which doesn't need any kind of major shuffling? If those 3 goals about which Vivek Johri spoke, it is attended to all the 3. And he also very subtly pointed out that trade facilitation in terms of those words may have come out later, but it was part of the 3 even early. Even in 1962, when you were doing it, it was part of the 3 goals. So the question that I want to ask of you is, you are the best persons, therefore. You've had some user cases where you showed that it was robust even before the pandemic. You could do newer things. You could facilitate trade. You could, the bonded warehouses are the, am I right? That's the example you quoted. You showed that it can be done differently, but yet the act will be intact. So you knew where to flex the act. And of course, there was no flexing at all, but you rose to the occasion where you were needed to serve and served well and even more during the pandemic. So now for the next 25 years, when technology is taking over, when obviously the faceless, the cashless, the contactless all worked brilliantly during the COVID, more of that, more of using a cocktail. I deliberately use it because in it, there's alcohol, there is also no alcohol. You have the dark net, but you also have the artificial intelligence. You have Web3, you have Meta. I'm sure all of you all are hearing a lot of all this. But time for all of us to really sit up and know and be sure that you'll be where necessary, when necessary, be able to handle it. That was a very classic instance which Vivek Johri mentioned, that if there are people coming to pay with cryptocurrency, who's at the coal face, the officer sitting there, how is he going to respond? Is it going to be the 1960s India where you're saying, no, don't come near me, you go away? Or is it going to be the 2020 India where you found a way to sort it out, but of course didn't do anything violative of the act? So you have before yourselves, enough and more instances of how speedily things are changing. And if the world is going through a reset, and in one area, directly or indirectly related to customs, but more related to all over India, we, by scaling up the digital affairs, whether it is payment, whether it is fintech, whether it is medicine, whether it is telemedicine, whether it is education, whether it is universities, whether it is banking, digitized the whole process and scaled it up also. Today, during the G20, there's so much interest for India to showcase its scaled up experiments using digital technologies. Now, in the context of G20, because we have an opportunity, I would want to ask the CBIC, would you therefore be the leaders to show how you have propositions which will, for the next 25 years, probably give the World Customs Organization enough and more ideas of, we've done this in India, it worked, here you go, take it from us. Because you've done a lot. It's no longer what I used to hear when I came back or when I kept traveling abroad. Oh my God, customs. No one says that nowadays. If anything, they're saying they're very good. There are times when they say, no, it can be better. Otherwise, would you have a representative of the freight forwarding agency? I know when they come and talk in front of you all, they talk good words. But they don't need to say that you've done brilliantly well, and particularly much before I could recall it here, they were the ones to say you did brilliantly well. We didn't have no part of the country had any complaint. That's not easy to get from, particularly those who know they're talking before the minister. They can always say, no, ma'am, we have problems even today. They didn't say that. They, of course, gave suggestions. So you have done remarkably well for yourselves, really coming out of the way, thinking out of the box, executing seamlessly, one officer being good, the others are not being good. None of that. Everything worked as if this is how things are. And that's where I think whoever was very good in giving the idea of, I'm purposely using the English word, the idea of a swan. Very gentle, very smooth, and, seamless. The flight path is also so beautiful to watch. So you've given yourself a beautiful logo, but of course I have a question, which I did ask Vivek. I thought he would say it here. He didn't. He's left it for me. Why couldn't it be Hansa? It is Hans, no? Mr. Hans, is it?
No, it's just the officer.
It should be a woman Hans. Hans is so delicate, so beautiful, so gentle. And it invokes a sense of how beautiful, how good. You're all like that, but why did you name it Hans? Change in mindset is not easy, I know. You've done it in so many different ways, but here, the original, now we won't let go. But thank you. I'm not suggesting immediately that you should give me a 3D pink color swan. No. I'm okay with the blue. Actually, whoever's thought about it has done a good job, because even when it is going to catch a fish or, is going to pick on something for it, it does it so harmlessly, hurtlessly, It's not on a wild hunt. Customs cannot be on a wild hunt in the borders. So, very nice. This morning I had read Vivek Johri in the paper. I want to, please don't mind me, Chairman CBIC. He sent me in the morning just a trigger saying, ma'am, I've written this piece. And most of them do know the best time to catch me with messages is early morning between 6 and 7:30. They all send me messages, I reply. He sent me and I was, oh, yes, I've seen it. But good that he sent me. And then that immediately made me think, saying, should I not, tweet it, retweet it? He's, after all, done a good article and everything else. But that's, again, all of us fall back. And I won't blame Vivek. I'm probably also equally like that. He didn't give me the link. He's just sent me a photo image of it. And what do I do with the photo image? I mean, after all, I need to promote my chairman CBIC, who's done a brilliant job sitting and writing it up and all that. So spend some extra 10 minutes to get the link and then put it out. But the point I want to pick up on is, well done, Vivek Johri. But I'm sure many more of you all can write about customs, write about issues faced by customs, write about how Indian customs is far more progressive and moving forward. You don't need to name anybody else, but you're moving forward. You're doing so much more. I think it's important for officials to own up to good work being done and write about it. And in that, I think I would ask the younger lot, in the process of interviewing your own bosses, so that you can learn from how he communicates with you about the job, you'll also probably be the first ones to be write with an open mind about what you've heard from him or her. Writing makes a lot more conversation happen outside of your own selves. Today, Vivek's article has been referred to by a few more people to me, saying, hey, he's written this, nice, 60 years is it? That's the kind of curiosity we need to invoke or provoke in people and be able to address it with more information that you can share. So I would think you shouldn't stick to protocol saying, I don't know, should I take permission, should I not take permission, can I write, can I not write? But do write. But don't abuse anybody in the articles. You may feel, differently about different people, but that's not the point. What you need to do is to build on how you want to improve or how you have performed, claim where you performed well, nothing wrong. You've done well, state it. So you should, I would strongly urge the board to encourage your field formations to write about wonderful things that you're doing, particularly when you're, some of the things that you've managed to do the seizures of. I was very impressed by the fact that during the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, we were able to completely burn down 44,000 kgs of narcotics. Not a mean achievement at all. And that clear display sends a message, certainly outside, but sends also a message within us, saying these are not seized to be leaked out. We are clearly committed to burn it all down. And similarly, because of the amendment done in the Finance Act of 2020, I think, seized gold goes to the Reserve Bank after due purification. And of course, I keep haranguing the board, saying, I've given only 60 days. It can't lie anywhere in any vault. Within 60 days, it should get out of your hand, go to the agency which does the purification to Reserve Bank standards, and just go into the Reserve Bank. Drugs get burned down, gold goes off to the Reserve Bank, it shall not go back into the market. These are increasingly making people understand the kind of work that you're doing. End result is to benefit the country. You shall not brook any kind of leakages or ingresses. That's what you are not brooking by stopping people from doing it, but after that too, no delay, tempting anybody who would want to misuse that access. But all the patting on our backs, for a moment if we keep aside, I'm still somebody who would say greater alert needed, particularly in the drugs matter. It is not easy. Today I was looking at a parliament answer or some input which was readied for tomorrow's debate. We may say that there are fluctuations. Some months it's more, some months it's less. Some years it's more, some years it's less. 65% in some categories, 85% in some other categories, whether it's heroin or it's cocaine or whatever, different numbers. I know the media is here and I don't want these numbers to be misquoted. And purposely I'm confusing everybody here. So one item, 85%, another 65%, but even those seizures, it's impossible to say 100%, obviously. There still would be something happening, but maximum alertness is what is required. And the using of intelligence that you get is critical. If gold is going to hurt the economy, drugs will hurt generations. We cannot afford it. So I would want you all to be on high alert in terms of drug seizures and follow up. I did say this once earlier in one of the gatherings here. Please ensure prosecution happens timely. And if you think there are undue delays happening, you should inform the board. It's for them to take it up as to why certain cases are languishing or why they would be delayed. We need to bring it to logical conclusion at the earliest in each of the cases. So thank you very much for being here. It was absolutely interesting addressing you, talking to you. But let me add this as the final touch. Any organization which has people in it who can write poetry, who can sing, and who can really perform before an audience, I think is made of different stuff altogether. And I honestly appreciate the effort made by you all. This is not the first time I think I've heard your choir sing earlier as well. It actually makes you feel so human. You know, it gives you that touch. Brilliant idea, and I think more of you all should cultivate that interest because it brings down a certain calmness to oneself. It's great that Customs is encouraging your own officers to do it. All kudos, appreciation. Thank you very much.